Welcome to Embracing New Life, the podcast that seeks to have conversations at the intersections of mental health and Christianity. And if you're new to the podcast, then we're in the middle of an interview series with Dr. Sonia Lucci. This week's episode is part 3 of 4 of our interview with her. And so if you haven't seen those first 2 episodes or listened to them, we encourage you to go back and reference those before diving into this episode. But if you're part of our listening audience or watching audience, welcome back. We look forward to releasing this episode so you can learn more about Dr. Sonia Lucci. And so without any further ado, here's part 3 of our interview with Dr. Sonia Lucci.
Right, and we have to do that ourselves as clinicians.
Yes.
All the time.
All the time.
Right, our own boundaries and our own recognition of self in the room. Recognizing our own parts, a judger or, analyzer. What are they coming in the way of connecting to the person? So we have to be very aware of our own role as we're sitting with people, and it's a very tender place. We need to be ever so cautious and so careful when we're doing work with people who have experienced this.
The research has shown us that the consequences of complex trauma can be every bit as interfering in life as a very significant major traumatic event. And so for some it's like, it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But yet they still are impacted in a very profound way. Right.
And we also have to look at attachment. So am I avoiding my, because of the avoidant attachment maybe I have with my parent, where I just see the good in my childhood and I don't see the both and. That's a healthy, secure attachment of, and not splitting. There's a term called splitting, of where we can split and idealize or devalue. And a healthy integration is seeing, okay, I grew up, I don't want to just say parents because we can experience complex trauma in a variety of ways, but for sure, definitely parenting is a very frequent avenue, is children with their parents experiencing complex trauma or immediate family. And so recognizing there are good aspects, or there's goodness and there's also sin or darkness. I love how I'm a big fantasy movie person, so I love like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, and I'll use those quotes sometimes. In therapy, I love when Sirius Black says there's light and dark in all of us. And it's true. We do have good and not great aspects. We have gifts, and we also have areas that we really need to work on and grow in. And so when a child grows up with, well, I only see the good, I never saw the bad, that's concerning. That's a warning sign of, okay, are you seeing reality for what it is, and being able to integrate both. Sometimes people are the opposite, where there's this anxious attachment, all they see is the dark and the problems, and they're not able to see the light in the person. And so it can depend on attachment, it can depend on, again, coping, and how we cope. It could depend on protective mechanisms that we have. It can depend on, have we found some resolution? Some people come in and say, I don't really feel impacted by my trauma anymore. So it can be a variety of things where it can still live on. And for some people, it can come in waves. Some people, it pops up here and there, and some people don't feel as affected by it.
Sometimes the impact can be thought of as emotional or in our thinking, but many times it's really in our body's reactions.
Yes, right. There's been a lot of good research. Bessel van der Kolk has done a lot of good research. Body Keeps the Score is an excellent book of understanding the mind-body connection, and where people will have physical experiences like autoimmune disorders or chronic health issues, heart disease, substance use issues, and anorexia, binge eating disorder. So many of those can, and not saying that we funnel down and then you'll see trauma. That's not necessarily the case.
Sure.
But oftentimes trauma, because of the way, I could go into all the science of the HPA axis system and the brain and all of that, but essentially with that amount of stress and trauma, that affects our bodies.
It does.
And so we need to look at the physical, and we need to understand what is physical, what is emotional, what is relational, what is spiritual here, and we need to look at all the different areas. There may be people who are very, like I had described, very angry at God. There's a lot of spiritual confusion. Maybe there's not. Maybe people feel particularly comforted in their relationship with God, but struggling physically and cannot stop feeling hypervigilant. Or, maybe they're continuing to struggle with panic attacks or nightmares or sleep disturbance, difficulties in their relationships, and they say, well, I don't have these nightmares, I don't have this hypervigilance, but I keep pursuing people who are dangerous for me, and I don't know why I do that. I continue to idolize or devalue my parents, and I keep obsessing about them. There can be so many different ways that trauma comes up for us and what we experience. And so, again, just recognizing, it's like a constellation, it's a universe of recognizing what is this person's experience and meeting them where they're at in their process.
Yeah, I think what you're speaking to is the complexity of the human experience, right?
Yes.
And that is something that social media doesn't really paint. Watch this 30-second thing on trauma, and then you should know it all. And that's where we have to be careful, like you're saying, because there is just so much complexity to it.
Right.
And there's so many different ways in which it impacts, and how we've been impacted, and how we go about navigating life because of it. So. Right.
Or again, a hot button word is gaslighting. Because within complex trauma, that could certainly happen.
Yeah.
But gaslighting is not just someone disagrees with you or has a different perspective than you and says, well, I don't see it that way, or I don't believe you, or that's not gaslighting. No. Gaslighting is that didn't happen, and you're crazy. So something's wrong with you. It's a both and an intentional, malicious manipulation of the person to break down their self-concept, their self-worth. There's a very malicious process.
Yes.
And this is where forgiveness comes in, because when we are confronted with trauma, there are obviously steps of healing. Janina Fisher is very helpful in this area of, we need to make sure that we're working on safety and stabilization, and then processing the trauma, and then finding meaning, right? She has these stages, but within that, I often, and I've had to do this work myself, but I'm often sitting with someone who says, I can't believe this happened to me, or I can't believe I didn't see this coming, and they have to be confronted with this. I experienced this evil, this sometimes even malicious evil, and we have to be able to work through that. But yes, there are obviously times where the person is not intending to gaslight or not intending to harm, and obviously, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Sometimes we think we have good intentions, but this is a different situation of, I'm maliciously trying to harm you. And we need to pay attention to how we are labeling, potentially weaponizing, and creating an us versus them mentality. It's not a healthy place for us.
No.
It's not a healing place. We need to be based in reality of what's happening in order to really move through the trauma.
Most definitely, yeah.
I'll think sometimes of forgiveness is the remedy for the unacceptable.
Yeah.
We'll work with people in our own personal lives where We can't change history. What happened happened.
Mm-hmm.
The impact is real.
Right.
What am I going to do with it?
Right.
And this is where forgiveness offers a resolution that
Yeah.
there really isn't another option other than protecting ourselves or
Yeah.
resentment, bitterness.
Right. Right.
And and the Christian narrative too, the meta narrative, right? There's so much power in it. You think about Joseph and his brothers, and he's like, "What you guys meant for evil, God meant for good." And there's a way of reframing stuff, not to invalidate the experience or to sweep it under the carpet, but to understand that even through the suffering, through the pain, through the trauma that we experience, God can and does produce something beautiful from those ashes, you know, and it's awesome when you have that perspective and that we can hold that for our clients as well.
Right. And I hear some people say, well, I'm better off going through the trauma, or I'm, in terms of some people who avoid it, maybe I'm better off, or it helped me be a better person. The trauma doesn't help you be a better person. Evil doesn't help us.
That's right.
God allows it, but he allows it for our good, which is very difficult. Sometimes even going to that place of God allowing this to happen, that is a whole, I mean, sometimes that can take months of working through. How could God allow this to happen? Yet it's for my good. And there's a lot of questions of, is God good? Because of the nature of some of the atrocities that people experience.
For sure. Yeah.
But there is a real comfort, even people who I work with who are not Christians, a comfort of knowing I am not alone in this process. So much of trauma is I experienced this and I was alone. I was isolated. I was shame, talk about your shame and guilt research, the sense of I am alone, I'm exposed, and there's no one here to comfort me right now. And when we are able to connect to a loving, benevolent God who knows our suffering, knows our frame, who has suffered himself unjustly on the cross and was in the face of evil, there's a great comfort to people who again are not even Christians, who hear, okay, there is a God who does care and who does love me, and he wants my good through this, and he's willing to walk alongside of me through this.
For sure.
He's near to the brokenhearted. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So many wonderful, so much scripture that is incredibly comforting, knowing that we're going to experience suffering, but in the end, he will establish our steps.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a great deal of hope, and people need hope.
Yes.
People need hope of, okay, so I experienced this, like you said, I experienced this, now what? What does that mean for my life? It can, again, really shatter a sense of who we are, the world, our dreams, and we have to be able to put the pieces back together, but we don't have to do that ourselves. And that's what I think therapy can be really helpful, of being able to walk alongside of someone who's trained, a professional, also someone who maybe shares the same worldview and faith, that can often increase a lot of trust in the healing process. And remembering the healing comes from God. God is healing in the moment. And often, before sessions or during sessions, many times to myself, I'll pray for the Holy Spirit to be in the room with us, because this is sometimes, it is beyond us. There's spiritual aspects to it that are sometimes beyond us. And there's a great healing that can happen with God's presence. And, he's the ultimate healer, the ultimate physician. There's multiple things maybe happening in the room. We might be doing relaxation techniques. We might be doing some stabilization. We might be doing some psychoeducation of what does this mean? How is this normal? Your experience normal given your situation? It might be uncovering the trauma. It might be doing forgiveness therapy, like you said. There's a variety of things that we may do in a session, and it doesn't look the same for everybody, as you know.
For sure. Yeah.
And the goal of treatment is not to get to a place as if it never happened.
Right.
That would be out of reality.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. We hope you enjoyed that episode. That was part 3 of 4 of our interview with Dr. Sonia Lucci. Be sure to join us next week as part 4 is released on Monday. And until we see you, we hope you have a great week. Take care and see you soon. Embracing New Life is a production of New Life Resources, a Christian counseling clinic in Southeast Wisconsin, whose aim and goal since 1976 has been to provide high-quality professional counseling, psychological, and consulting services from within a Christian framework.